Well, you're gonna have. Do you have the device already? So
Hold on.
Some
One second.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody. Like my hair? It's live and I'm in action. I don't know. It's just been the day of anytime I'm trying to do something, it was like my look is just going to be in there. So without further ado, I am going to get applause to my next beautiful guest, Tammi. Let's go. Bring it to the stage.
Hello, my sister. Hello.
How are you, sis? How are you feeling? And I know it's kind of early. It's still kind of early there for you.
Nah. It's good. It's good. I'm good. I actually got up about 12 o'clock.
Okay, that's not bad. That's not bad. I'm proud of you. Go, girl. So, I didn't realize how tired I really was, or still am, doing 2 shows back to back, and the energy from the first show, it was okay. Like the energy wasn't bad,
right?
But the second show, because it's spiritual and we know each other. I don't know if people say I cried because we had a mutual friend that passed away.
Oh, wow.
And she was actually in the building, and I was not prepared for that. And it I'm still getting shook like right now. I was not prepared for that at all.
But how can you be?
Girl,
how could you prepare for that?
I don't know. It was like
it's not anything I don't think you could do.
I don't know. It was like and I think I was talking about her to my brother, and me and her were talking about her. And then she had the nerve to tell me, "Don't be crying. She can't be doing that." And I was like, and then I was thinking, I was in a store and I heard Cecilina. That she's the only person that would call me Cecilina. And I was getting a shovel. And I heard that just before the show, I heard Cecilina. I was like,
here we go.
No. You said you were here, but you really are here. Can you turn the light on, baby? So whatever happens, I'm like, I'm going to be prepared. But baby, could you get me something to drink, please?
You know what it is, because you like to be prepared. And everybody, people just ain't like that. They just fly off the seat of their pants, right? Especially in this community.
What?
You got people that they don't prepare, and I'm like, how does that
work for you?
Right.
Okay. All right, but then people say I'm a little bit OCD, but it's okay.
And you know what? It's okay, because that's you. Like me and my husband go back and forth because he's a Virgo, and he's a for real, true Virgo.
Mm-hmm.
So I am a spontaneous being. You know this about me. I'll be like, oh, this is good. You know what? I'm gonna go dance. Baby, let's go out. Let's go dance.
I get you. And
he's like, oh, well, you should have. Why didn't you tell me that yesterday? Or something.
Because I can be prepared. Yeah. Okay.
Right. So I'm like, no. Me, I'm like, I'll just, I'll jump in the shower and, throw something on and, smell good, look good. I'm ready to go. And he's like, well, let's just wait. Well, maybe tomorrow, No, he'll say, well, I just wasn't prepared for that. And I'm like, how does that, but that's, those are the differences. You know what I mean? It's like, how does one prepare? For that.
That's going to be my new question for 2026. How do you prepare? Because how I prepare is different. And I'm like, I got it. So I'm trying to see where am I at on the stream. Okay. So I'm like, it is what it is. So let's start. I want to say, everybody, I am Dr. D, aka Food Alchemist. I want to welcome you to 963B for You. Thank you for being patient, and I hope y'all understanding. And without further ado, we're going to introduce Intuitive Tammi. We've known each other. I was trying to think. We've known each other for about 2 to 3 years now. Wait a minute.
It's been longer than that.
3. Wait a minute.
Because before you went to
from Guam.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
It's been 4 years or 5 or something.
Wait a minute. It was before I left for Guam.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, oh gosh. I ain't gonna even say. But yeah, it's been a long time. So she's been through some stuff with me. Like, look, I'm just going to Guam. But Nikki do too. But Nikki, like she said yesterday, I don't know where she's gonna be. She probably in Japan. She in China. I don't know what to do. And I was like, okay. Y'all know me.
My husband asked that. He goes, well, what wait, she was in Guam. He goes, Vegas. I said, no, she decided not to do it. She's in Florida. He's like, oh. I said, well, she got, 6 acres or whatever. He's like, oh. That's it. I said, but you never know where she'll be. I said, so I just have to see what she told me. I said, or see if the Lord showed me, like, hey, she's over there,
Right.
But he's like, yeah. He goes, I said, okay. I said, when we go that side, we definitely have to swing there. And he's like, all right, babe, all right.
All right. So with that, tell people how you figured out you were intuitive, or it came to you were intuitive. Like,
I got you. When I was a child, young, probably, one digit, 5, 6, 7, something. My mother would always ask me questions. And I always seemed to have a lot of wisdom for a young person. They used to say, oh, she's an old soul, And then I stayed a lot with my grandmother too. So, I was always around older people. But my mother would ask me questions, and and it would be things that no child at that age would know, as you know. And so I would, tell her, but she would wait until some adult told her the very same thing that I told her. And she still kind of does that today and whatever. So I kind of knew. And then when I started seeing the dead people at about probably 6 or 7, somewhere around there, that was a whole nother thing. And a lot of times you don't have really anybody to talk to about these things. But I have to say that I was blessed and fortunate because I talked to my grandmother, who, was a pastor, which when you think about that part, it's like, okay, wait, her grandmother was a pastor. She talked to her about psychic stuff and medium stuff and intuitive stuff, And so I did. And I was able to, she was able to guide me.
Nice.
Even today, she's one of my guides. And, but she was able to guide me in that because she recognized it. And it was like, I feel like God put her there to nurture that in me, because there was nobody else, because everybody else was, stuck with their nose deep in the church and, and pastor said, and the Bible said, and, and that's evil and of the devil and all these things. But
right.
Grandma knew. So she would, I would talk to her about it. And she was the only person for years, because who do you share that with?
Right.
But then what I found is that people would pick it up, like in spaces that I was, even school, work, spaces, people would pick it up and they would just, and I've always had this thing where I feel like sometimes people take a straw, and just suck the hell out of me. I've felt that for years.
I thought you were
not in a cannibalistic way. No, like in an energy way, because they pick it up, and a lot of times what I feel like is other people can see your gifts, stronger than you can sometimes at first. And
right.
So they see them. It's almost like when you run across somebody that is powerful, but they selling something for $35 and they could get at least $150, $200, $300 for it or whatever, right?
Right.
But they selling it for $35 and you know what you do if you got sense? You go ahead and get it. Because
Right.
you realize that you're getting a value. You realize that, this is way, because I bought something the other day like that. I think it was $27, and that thing is hella value. And I
Right.
almost think that sometimes when you do that, I know that a part of it is you don't value yourself.
Mm.
And then I know the other part is, you're afraid of, asking for money, maybe.
That's true too.
And then the other part, I think, is you just don't know what the hell you got. And it's like, if you don't know, I'm okay with that. Because really, it's like, as I started, really going down this path, of, learning all that, and I'm still in this place where I feel like right now I am in this growth space that I have been asking God for. It's like I felt like there was a little slug, but then when I think about it, it was necessary, because of all the things that I was doing. You know what I mean? Like, so like, you get to a place where you know who you are. And I think that's the space, because you try all these things, and you listen to what the people tell you, and the pastor tell you, and this guru and that guru and this person and that person.
Right.
And then at some point you get to the place where you go inside, you say, nah. Like now it's like, I look at things and I go, I don't even know what the fuck that means. You know what I mean? Stuff that you were teaching, and and people accept, and you look at it and you go, wait, nah, right? You're like, okay, I'm I gotta question this, because this is not real to me.
Right.
And I think that's a space that even people that are intuitive, young, I think that's the space, because you know who you are finally. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because sometimes we go through and then we allow people to tell us who we are. And instead of saying, no, like when the people told me I was pre-diabetic, I told the doctor, I said, no, I'm not. And she said it again, and I said, no, I'm not. And she said it again, and I said, I told you, no, I'm not.
Right. I get you.
You don't tell me who I am. And I believe that, once I realized, because like I said, for me, it was like, I thought everybody was like that. I was like, oh, well, you don't, that God doesn't talk to you.
So,
especially when they would say stuff like this. Yeah, I want to do so and so and so and so, but I'm waiting on God. Really?
stop playing. Stop playing. Okay. So, where were you born?
Savannah, Georgia.
Okay. That's why it's called talking.
Straight out of Savannah.
Talking Savannah. Okay, that makes sense. So I'm like, all right. So you being from Savannah, East Coast, down south, with your gifts, you must have irritated people a little bit, want to say, because if the deep down south is Christian based, especially when you got a little bit of melanin in your soul, you going against you devil talking. You know what I mean? That's what it's. The devil's talking, because if you right, the woo woo.
I was gonna say, you think about it. The song that came in my head just now was like, "Ooh, you're the devil. You're the devil."
That's my favorite song.
And that's what they would say. And the thing about this girl is, why, if I'm in the church, you call me a prophetess?
Mm-hmm.
But because I'm not doing it in your church, I'm of the devil.
Right.
And I'm talking to the devil and all these things. I'm like, what the world? Really?
So, with that being that you were born like that, did you pass this gift to your children?
Yes, I know that they have it.
Okay. Do they recognize it, nurture it, and
want
to develop it?
My son does. My daughter, she's naturally like that.
Right.
And she's been, because I remember one day she was about 9, and she said, Mommy, she said, can you look at people and tell whether they're good or bad? And I said, can you? She said, yeah. I said, yeah. I said, you got it from me. I said, you have that gift. And I tried to tell her, this is, but anyway, how kids can be.
Right.
But my youngest, yes, definitely. I mean, he's so in tune that I call him sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And I say, hey, what you think about this? Da, 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 da. And he's like, oh, Ma, I think that's, you should check this out or look at that and da, da, da. And I love that about them.
Mm-hmm.
And when I raised them, I was in the church.
Okay.
So once when you're in the South, like you said, with the Bible Belt, you're raised in the church, especially with, like you said, the melanin people, because we have been so brainwashed and manipulated by those religions,
Mm-hmm.
and we fight for them. I don't understand.
Because we need something to hold on to.
Something to hold on to. Yes. Yes. I didn't even think about that, but you are so right. Let me write that down. Girl.
I'm just telling you.
Mm-hmm.
They'll be like, they're going to get it. We're going to get it. So if they do, we'll see.
The thing is so many people are focused on the outer, and for me, it just comes back to, this is home. This is home. This is home.
Got it.
This is God. Why are we over here? Why are we over here? And why are we, and this is the thing too, that I was looking at. Why are we chasing down gurus? Why are we trying to make people into gods? Why?
Thank you.
What's that boy's name? Shaman Durek. Why are we running behind people and trying to put them on pedestals? So if they're human, then we can come crashing them down and we can cancel them or whatever, right?
Right.
Why? Why are we not, accessing the guidance that we have inside? Why are we not doing that?
Because we are taught to look outside ourselves. Let me rephrase that. We've been reprogrammed to look outside ourselves, and everybody else have the answers, but to doubt ourselves, that we tune out the intuitive that we are born with.
Yes.
We tune it out because that's what we're taught to do. The reprogramming. And it didn't just start with us. It started with our great grandparents.
Yes.
And a little bit subtle. So right now, we're just discovering even parts of our history that we didn't even know.
That's right.
You know what I mean? Come to think about it. Oh, the land that is here is indigenous people, but the people that you've called Native Americans are really not. They're Siberian and blah, blah, blah mix that transported to here. Just like the people you tell them of Israel and all of that, they're not the real original people of the land. They're nomads that have been bought and transported. How they got to do that, if people go and look at the history, I'm going to break it down for y'all, so be ready. They used to go, and when the women, they would sneak in the villages and bring them out there and actually rape them and keep them, and then they became part of their tribe. You know what I mean? It was not something voluntarily, so then they became part of that land. It was not something the women or they volunteer for, just for purposes for people needing to understand, get it right. See, even here. Yeah. Now you find out, we are the indigenous of this land. Yes. The people that came here that we're called native are really not indigenous to the land. They come from Siberia and other places, but we're giving them this land and this stuff and that and that. Come on now, wake up.
I'm telling you. Ooh, every time I learn something else, girl, it's like, Jesus, I was talking to a girl earlier and I said, something I learned and I didn't know. I didn't know that. Okay. So I knew that our slavery was a business. I knew that. But I didn't know how calculating it was, how they actually went and they got the people that could do the shit that they needed in the plantations, like they went to the place where, you know, people were like good blacksmiths, or they did metal work, and then they went to the places where people knew how to carpent and, you know, do carpentry and stuff like that, and the fishing villages and the this and that. So they went and they targeted those people to bring them. And I did not realize that it was that fucking deep. I knew it was a business, but I didn't know they went over there to see what, you know, and just did what they always do. Bait and switch. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? And steal and all that. Right. So I'm like, I did not realize that. So that's why when the people came here, they already knew how to do the stuff that they wanted them to do.
They didn't have to think. So a lot of these inventions, my friend we were talking about it. Why would somebody that doesn't do the work create inventions that's going to make life easy for them when they don't even do it to begin with?
Right.
I'm just saying that, you know, you think about it, but that's me. But that's me on my soapbox. And
the thing is it doesn't make sense, because you know what the motherhood of invention is. Necessity.
Right. That's how it comes out of necessity of life.
So
and
they
survival.
Yes, they did.
Not when you got somebody else doing
it. True. That's what I'm saying. So you know it couldn't have been them creating it.
Right.
Because they didn't need it.
Right. It's a hard pill. It's a hard pill for a lot of people to swallow.
It is.
And I'm gonna say this, you know, y'all need to get a grip, get a life, and understand what life is really all about. And sometimes that's hard for people. Let me see. I'm like, I don't know what's going on. Oh, got some more people liking it, but only see not that many in the room. But that's okay. I'm not having the phone calls today. I shut that board down because my phone was being used and it didn't make it inappropriate enough time. So, with us saying that, I'm gonna tell you, what was your profession before Intuitive Tammi? Tell us about your profession.
So I was a nurse for 32 years. 3 years before that, I was a nursing assistant. Mm-hmm. Before that, I did data entry. And before that, I worked for my daddy, 14, in his office doing secretarial shit, you know, typing up documents and whatnot, and going to court sometimes. He taught me a little bit how to file some things and stuff.
Go, girl.
So I did that. But yeah, so that was, I truly believe that I was on that path for a reason, but I don't think I was supposed to stay as long as I did. Okay. You know, because even now I feel, you know, and we've talked about this, I feel like I have worked way more than I was supposed to work in this life.
Okay.
Like I was never supposed to work as hard as I worked. You know, and I you know, paid the price for it. But I didn't realize that. And then I had to get to this place where, because, you know, you raised in the church. When I was 17, I told God that I wasn't going back to church because church was in a file. He could pull a file. And if he picked any fucking day of the week, I probably was there at church. So I think that I was done. I did. I had this conversation with God. I said, I'm done. Because, you know, we used to go to church 3, 4, 5, sometimes 7 days a week. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, I think I've done it. I've done it. You know, I was baptized 2 or 3 times. I said, so I'm done. So I didn't go for a while. And then I had my kids. I thought I probably should, you know, take them to church, you know, because that's what we were taught, you know. At least they'll be, you know, get the word of the Lord or whatever, you know, and stuff. And so we did. We found a church and we did one of those. Well, when we got there, it wasn't a mega church, but it ended up being a mega church when we left. But in there, and then I started seeing stuff is what happened. I started seeing all kinds of stuff, you know, all the hypocrisies, and, you know, it's almost like my eyes just went, wow. I didn't know, because certain things I believe that I was naive to, right? You know, because I wasn't raised that way. Like my grandma's little church, it was mostly family. We had some other people that came, you know, people that met her and stuff like that, you know, and then she did a lot of counseling of people, and it wasn't even like church people. Like people would come to her for counseling and stuff. And And so I saw, and she was a woman of integrity. So that's all I saw. You know what I
Right.
mean? So I was like, when I saw some of the other stuff, I was like, is this of God?
I get you.
Not the one that, I don't know about the one, no. So, and then when I got divorced, my church, it just flipped. It's like, I don't know. And it was crazy because there was so much going on with like men that, we had a fellowship with that were married that would, come on. And I was like, no, I know you. No, I'm not. No. You know what I mean? I had a wife to come to me, and I had to tell her, I said, listen, honey, I don't want your husband. I said, and I'm gonna tell you, if I wanted him, I'd already had him. I said, so I don't want him. I said, I just got rid of mine. I don't want none right now. I'm good. So when I got to that place, it was like, okay. So then when I started feeling the call and God said, go move across the country, left South Carolina, went to Arizona. He was like, nothing. I didn't have a job, nothing. I was like, I had a place to stay. My cousin said, you can stay with me. So I said, all right, did all that. And it was so crazy because I went through so much in that first 6 months I was there. More than like I got fired for the first time in my life. And not only fired, girl, not one job, but two.
Congratulations.
And the thing is when I thought back on it later, I was like, that actually was my open door, but I did not walk through it. Because at that time I was really studying and I was doing a lot of praying, reading a lot of books and, learning a lot of stuff and really kind of opening my mind to things and stuff. Because, when you're in religion, your mind is closed. That's
right.
why you can't move, because it's like they shut you down, and that's on purpose.
Of course.
That's what they were supposed to do.
Sure.
And we just, I don't know, some of us just continue to stay lost and stuck.
Because it feels comfortable and familiar.
Yeah. Because you don't want to move because this is what you know. That right there, you don't know. What they say, stick to the devil you know.
Mm-hmm.
You know that, but you don't know nothing about this other stuff.
Right.
But for me, I have always been adventurous. God, and I haven't even traveled like you have, but my family think I'm just the biggest gypsy nomad. They're like, oh, we don't know where she's gonna be.
And there's nothing wrong with it. I'm telling you.
They used to make you think so. Girls make me feel bad. I'm like, well, it ain't my fault. I was tired of that place. It was time for us to go.
Right. And there's nothing wrong with it, but it's okay. So on Savannah, your talk show.
Yeah.
What kind of guests you have on your show? Like, what is it about? What is the goal and what is the mission of your show?
So,
or I should say, let me rephrase it, your network. It's not your show, it's a network.
I'm glad you asked. So I was thinking about that, and I speak to spiritual entrepreneurs. I speak to psychics, mediums, channels, human design, all of that. And so the conversations I actually just revamped because I was like, okay, what are we talking about? The conversations are talking about spiritual authority and midlife reinvention.
Okay.
So standing up for who you are and, remembering who you are, really. Remembering who you are, and then, midlife reinvention. Because there's so many of us out here, just like I met a girl, she was a accountant or something. And now she's a second medium. And it's a lot of people out there, like that. And there was another girl, she said she started using her gifts at her work. And she was doing something in corporate. And she said, the people would say, oh, she said, because I said, how did it shift for you? And she said, oh, she said, instead of having to look up everything and all that stuff and write all that stuff down, she said, it never mattered anyway. She said, I just go in there. She said, I would have my paper and my pen. She said, I would listen to him. She said, and then the spirit would tell me blah, 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 blah. So I said, okay. So those are our guests. And I've interviewed probably, I don't know, girl, probably over 300 people.
Nice.
Yeah, I just enjoy that show. But it's definitely to help people to shift and move, and then help you to understand that even in that midlife, you can shift. People change careers. I mean, they get second careers after they retire. People just decide, hey, I'm done with this. I can't do this another day. And to me, that shows so much courage. Because especially for something that you've done, something that because that's the whole other part. We all look for the familiar.
Right. And it's an alignment of who you are and what you've done.
Yes. And we don't often see it, because even me, I never wanted to be a freaking nurse ever. My mother was one. I didn't want to do it. Almost all her sisters are nurses, and I got a couple of my grandma's sisters that was, nurses, or either they was, aides and took care of people all their life and stuff. And I never wanted to do that. Never. So when I did become a nurse, because my mother said, go to nursing school, you'll always have a job.
She ain't never lied.
Right. Until she didn't.
Right.
So, but yeah, it was a thing. But as I did it, and then also being the empath that I am, sometimes that thing was hard for me, because, you get close to those people, especially, you work in like the hospital or home health or something, and you get close to them and their families and all that stuff. Or, how people in the hospital months and you have them almost the whole time they was there, that kind of stuff. It's like, oh man, and you feel them, and then the other thing is sometimes you would know when it was time for them to go.
That's the hard part.
That's the part, especially when nobody else knew. You know what I mean? Like they weren't telling, nobody, they didn't know what I knew. So I would be like, oh God, and I would try to help them as much as I could, like maybe you should think about, doing this. Right. Maybe you should think about reconciling with your children, things. And so I feel like a part of it, was time that I was supposed to give back, because I took care of a lot of AIDS patients when that thing first hit. A lot. Yeah. And sometimes, they didn't get treated well. The ones that looked like us, or if they were gay, they didn't treat them well. So, yeah. So I feel like that. I feel like I was supposed to be there at that time, because it was me, and I had two workmates that I worked with, and we were like the Three Musketeers. We would come in at night on night shift, and the first thing we would have to do is get towels and washcloths and sheets and stuff, and clean everybody up, and then, or actually, the first thing was try to feed them, because we would come in on night shift and their trays would be in the room untouched.
Okay.
So, so I realized that was it was a beautiful time for me, to help people in that way.
And what do you think the gift was during that time to you from that experience?
I think that the gift helped me to understand the path that I went after that. Because after that was when my ex-husband was diagnosed with AIDS. So I saw a lot that I could understand, and it helped me with him in a lot of ways. Okay. Yeah. So it was.
Wow. That's what I'm saying. Wow.
Right.
That's okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So, the next thing is I want to ask you, when did you write your first book, and why did you write your first book?
2017, I wrote my first book, and it's an anthology, and it was called Unchain Me Mama. And the reason I joined, because the girl had put a post up and she was looking for people, and so she was doing interviews. So she interviewed me, and she said, I would love to have you. So the reason I did it was because the relationship that I had with my mother, I thought it needed some help, and I didn't know what else to do. I had done everything I could. My grandmother had told me before she died to fix that relationship, right? So I was like, all right. And so I was trying, but I was just trying. So when I wrote the book, or when I got ready to write the book, I told her, I said, I'm writing this book and it's about you. I'm not asking for permission. I'm just telling you that it is here. So you'll know, so you won't be blindsided. Because that's not my intention. So she was like, okay. And she actually was the first person to buy the book. The paperback and the ebook.
Nice.
So it was pretty good. And so she was able to read that. And I believe that it did help our relationship in a lot of ways. Because I think it was things that she just didn't know. And it was stuff I didn't understand because she never talked about it.
Right.
You know, kind of like how I have not a clue when they got divorced. Because nobody told me.
Right.
Nobody talked about it. Basically, she just kind of did this. Just took the picture and just cut him out. Like the family photo. She just took the family photo, cut him out. So, you know, you just
you're done. That's it.
Done.
Cut off, walk away.
Right? Yeah, you're done.
They don't see you, they don't need you.
They don't
get you. Yeah, some closure. So that's good. So when did you write your second book?
The second one was in 2020. That is Walking Away. That is my story. I actually wrote this book 3 times. This is the third version. And I'm sure that all the versions were different because different shit happened. A little bit longer. But this one is my story, and I talk about my ex and how he ended up contracting AIDS in 2000. And we actually were still together after that. Because at that point, you know, I was like, to be honest with you, girl, I stayed in so much prayer at that time. Because we had just kind of like reconciled in our relationship, like maybe 2 years before that. He just told me, you know, he's going to stop cheating because that's what he did. He's going to stop and this and that and blah, blah, blah. And so he had reconciled and we were actually having a good relationship. We had gone to church and, you know, he rededicated his life back to God and all these things. And so I was like, all right, I don't even know. And, you know, we got married at 19. So, you know, I was with him 20 years. And so I was like, all right. And so, you know, we had committed to fight. So, you know, I stayed in prayer because the first 6 months he was sick and he couldn't work, which, you know, he was not a man that didn't work. Like I don't deal with that. But anyway, but for those 6 months, he was so sick he couldn't work. So I worked and I switched from days to nights. I had just switched to day shift because my kids were old enough to come home by themselves in the afternoon. Right. So I switched back from days to nights because he would call me all day long and ask me where things were. And I'm like, I don't know. I am here and you're there. So I said, you know what? Let me just do nights. And so I did. I switched to nights, but I would be up with him, taking care of him, you know, making sure my kids had dinner and cooked and all that stuff. And then also I had to keep that secret. Right. Because I didn't tell my kids because they were, I think, 10 and 12, something like that. And I really just didn't think that they needed that type of burden.
Right. Or the stigmatism that they've heard and seen.
Especially at that time. And then the other thing is, my children are empathic. I could see them thinking their daddy was going to die, you know, tomorrow. Or coming home and finding him dead or something. You know what I mean? Right. I made that choice. We made that choice that we weren't going to tell them. I told them that daddy had pneumonia. Because, you know, my children were smart. They used to look stuff up. So I said, daddy has pneumonia. So they could look at the drugs. You know what I mean? Because I'm telling you, girl, you don't even know sometimes. And yeah, so I wrote that book. And the reason I wrote that book was because I wanted people to know that you can do dumb stuff. You can go through things. You know, people can try to, you know, basically beat you down emotionally, even physically, if that's something that you allow. But you don't have to stay back there. You know, you can come up here. You can still be smiling and glowing. You know, you don't have to be some depressed, evil, depraved, you know, bitch or something.
Oh, okay.
But so you can just, you can be free. And I wanted people to know that, because I see people all the time. They think that one devastating thing in their life, or one's devastating period in their life, and they can't overcome. You can't go forward. You can't be anybody. And I was like, nah, I want people to know that. I want people to know that. And then it's important for me to say that I knew I was going to write the book. Matter of fact, I knew I was going to write books.
Nice.
Because that's what I wanted to be when I got out of high school, was a writer.
Okay.
Yeah. So I knew it. I was like, but I was waiting, And I also want to say that sometimes opportunities look like work.
Okay.
Sometimes opportunities look like work, even when God sends it.
I got you. So your next book and course you wrote, really about that.
Yes, this last one was why do I keep choosing the wrong partner? And I wrote that because I talked to so many women that talk about that. They're like, oh, I had this, they didn't have 5 husbands and, stuff like that. And, and I'm like, and they say, well, I don't know why I, keep choosing like that. I said, well, let's break it down. I said, do you have like types? You have types?
Mm-hmm. And what did they say?
Like, yeah. I was like, yeah. And are you with them now? No? Okay, so that's not your type. It's just what you like. Right. I said, so you, and then the other thing is too, so many people, they're going out in these relationships and they're not healed. And then the other thing too is they sell themselves short because they want a relationship. Like any man will do, that kind of thing. Or any woman will do. Like, no. But they do. And then they, and the thing is a lot of times when people go out here, put themselves out for relationships, they're not ready.
Ashe.
Because they're not they haven't loved on them. And that's one of the things, like, I'm like, love on you. And I tell people, I got divorced. I didn't date anybody for a year, but me. I dated me. Sometimes I would get dressed up and go out by myself. I would go to the movies by myself. I would go to the game by myself. I would go to the sports bar because I like to watch sports. I take myself to the sports bar and get me something to eat, get me a drink, and be good.
Oh, shoot. I'm sorry about that. I was like, I thought I turned the phone off, and lo and behold.
See, I don't have that problem because my phone does not ever come on. My phone does not ring. I do not like the noise.
See, you're good. I have my phone on because I'm waiting for the lawyer, and the lawyer I need has just called me back. But
okay,
and he in Miami, so fast pace. We won't say no more on that, but it'll be just say slip it of the tongue. I was trying to put that, but I apologize. So what I'm going to have to do is turn this off. Do that.
You know what you do? You turn it off and you put it on where it vibrates, and you put it in your hand or something so you feel it.
See, I don't know about that, all of that right now, but I'm gonna learn. Trust me. I just got to turn it off. Like it's been the last couple of days, been days of surprises. That's all I'm gonna say.
That is truly.
It's been one of those days, but today, like I said, after I got off, I was like, everything's gonna be okay, and you got to trust that. And even though things were coming at me, I said, it might not look like it's okay, but it's okay. You might not think that you got it, but you got it. So
I told a young lady that just yesterday. I said, she was like, yeah, I'm doing everything I can. I can't seem to, make no money. And I don't think I'm supposed to work because I keep, getting these jobs and I get fired or either. I said, girl, chill. It's all right. It is okay. It's all right. I said, chill, breathe. I said, but you got to know. I said, I know you know. And so I told her, I said, I know you know. I said, but I'm not a person that's going to beat you upside the head, while you're down. I said, but I'm just telling you, you know. I said, you know what to do. I
go.
said, because for me, I told her, I said, girl, I was talking to her on Facebook Messenger, and I was like, I can feel your energy is ungrounded. I said, you are all over the place, you know? And she's like, I know, but I was like, no buts.
That one.
You know? It's interesting when I get to talk to the younger ones like that, because she's probably a little bit older than my kids, you know, and I'm like, I love when I get to talk to them and, you know, make an impact in their lives so that they don't get to our ages and deal with some of the stuff that some of us have dealt with.
Right.
Yeah.
Because someone never took the time. And I was going to say, sometimes people don't know how to love themselves because the person that was raised by them or in their environment never knew what love is, or their interpretation of love might have been things or whatever, and they thought that that's what they were actually giving loving, because look, I'm buying this, I'm taking you here. That is the way they showed love. So my thing is, I start asking people, what is your definition of love, or what does love look like for you? And I'm going to tell you what love looks like for me, for my mates. And then remember, we talked about, I said, the reason a lot of men are intimidated because I'm strong. I don't take no mess. I speak my mind. Look, you are a wussy because that's just what you've been, a wussy. I'm just going to be honest. Let's put it out there. But me being a strong female doesn't make me male, because I'm all woman, every part of me. It's just that I have not in this term in my life found a man to make me want to be vulnerable enough to put down and go, I can relax, that you got me, because I'm the one that, like, come on, let's go. You ready? All right, let's go. I'm protecting you and me. But when you in that thing, that's what you are. But when you learn that, and I used to say that, like, my mate made me comfortable before his passing when I was 30. He was 59. And I give you, I went in the store. And I'm used to when I'm in the store, I'm buying my stuff and I'm getting ready to put it up. He tapped my, like, what you doing? I'm like, paying for the groceries. I don't know who you've been with. The boys, and this is word. You're used to dating boys. I'm a grown man.
Yeah.
We go into the store. I pay for your groceries. What the hell am I doing? I was like, oh, snap.
Okay. See, that's it. That's it. And you said it. That, to me, that's love, because the same. Like, I used to tell people, I said, my first husband pimped me. That motherfucker. I didn't realize it, of course, you know, at the time, but, you know,
Right.
but looking back, I'm like, he pimped me. But you know what? This one, real man. And I mean, not in the sense of, you know, supportive, caring, loving. Like, I have never been loved like this. My love language is travel. I know about all them other ones, but mine is travel, because I like to travel.
Right.
And he knows I like to travel. So I used to have these problems like every probably 6 months or so, or something like that, especially if we hadn't traveled when we lived in that tiny little apartment.
Right.
I would start freaking out, but I didn't really realize how I was freaking out, but he did, because I would be snapping at him and stuff. He's like, pack your bag, because we're gonna go to such and such a thing, and I already, you know, booked us an Airbnb. Get up out of here.
That's so sweet.
So he would do that, you know, and the thing for me is, what I asked God for in a man was a man that loved him.
Right.
Now, of course, I had other things, you know, like I had health insurance and stuff like that written down, because I know I don't like to keep jobs, and, you know, need some health insurance. We're getting a little older. But I said I wanted him to love God, and not in a religious way.
Right.
I wanted him to know God and to love God, because this is what I said. If he knows God and loves God, God will show him how to love me, because we all have our own ways that we want to be loved. For me, it's support, it's the kindness, My husband treats me like a queen. And I have to say this too before. In between, I had a man that was very similar to me. He was like an archetype of what I have now. So I believe that God sent him to me to show me who I was, to let me know that I was a queen and I was deserving to be treated kindly, to be loved, like certain things I'll say. My husband now, he does the laundry.
Nice.
And I have not mopped the floor since I've been with him 13 years. Now, if it's a little wipe or something, I got to get off the floor like that. But like to mop a whole floor, I haven't done it in 13 years.
Wow.
He don't let me do it because he knows my back hurts every time I do it. I think I complain. But he, and that's things that he does, and I have to be careful a lot of times if I say I want something. Because I'm telling you, this man, and I've told people before, I said, if anything happens to him, which I don't see, but I would never marry another man because I can't think that there would be another one to treat me any better than this one. Okay. I got ready to take off because, I was having the long COVID symptoms and all the stuff. And I was stressed and I was like, okay, should I stop? I can't hardly do this because, my mind, I couldn't even do it. And I had so much exhaustion and all the things. And he told me, he said, you know what? I got us. I got us. Tell them people you ain't coming back. But for me, I had to trust.
Right.
Because the first time I didn't have one I could trust. This one, because I'd be like, okay, is he talking out of both sides of his neck? And then next thing I know, we got all kind of stuff going on and I got to go find a damn job so I can help. Right. You know what I mean? So, but no, he was like, baby, I got us. He said, what I want you to do is not worry.
And that's a beautiful thing. So he's allowing you to be vulnerable.
Yes.
So I hear a lot of men that complain. She's alpha, she's strong. Are you allowing her to be vulnerable that she can trust you?
Yes.
So this is when you meet a strong woman, that's what you need. You need to be able to allow her to be vulnerable that she can trust you. And it's not going to happen overnight.
No.
Let me tell you.
Because I'm still unpacking that. And we've been married 10 years in June. But
right.
I'm still like, there are still some things, it's like, because he'll tell me stuff like, you didn't have to get that stool. I would have got that off the shelf for you. Because I'm 5 feet tall. But he's like, you didn't have to get the stool because I have stools. I have two. I had a stool for upstairs in my house and a stool for downstairs. And now I have one in my office and one in the kitchen. And so I'll grab a stool and he's like, you didn't have to do that. All you got to do is ask me. I would have grabbed it for you, stuff like that. And I'm like, well, I didn't think about it. But it allows me to be that because I never was.
Right.
Like with the other one, I had to take over even deeper than I already was when, he got sick and all that. So it was like, oh my God, here we go again. But I don't have, that because the thing that I asked for was the one that loved God. So God would tell him how to love me.
Ashe.
And it's like, and the thing, and like I said, the precursor one that came, I know now why he came because at that time my self-esteem was so low and, I didn't even think I was beautiful and all these things. And he came in and he made sure that I knew I was beautiful.
There you go.
And then set me up really for this one. And when this one came, I knew him. That's the other part. Like I met him, I talked to him. we were visiting a church in Phoenix. Mm-hmm. And I think I called him. I got his number. I got his card because he had an Aflac thing on. And so I called him and I said, hey, I said, no, I told him, I said, you do Aflac? He said, yeah. I said, you got a card? He said, yeah. I said, what's a good time to call you? And he said, you can call me anytime. Now that went over my head.
Right.
But my girlfriend that was with me picked it up.
Right.
So I'm like, all right. And, it's all good and everything. And now here we are, but it's a journey because, you had 20, 30, 40 years of whatever the other stuff was. Right.
Okay.
And then you come into this and then what happens too is in the beginning, even though you called for it because I wrote it down and he checked all my boxes except the sports. everything.
Okay.
Except he doesn't like sports. I can live with that because he don't mind me watching, and he'll, go watch a movie or whatever while I'm watching.
Right.
But other than that, he checked everything I asked for, everything. And I'm like, wow. Because when I found that journal, when I moved here from 2012, and I looked and I seen, what I wrote out, I was like, dang, I did that. And I didn't, and the thing is, y'all, I didn't do no ritual or nothing like that. I didn't burn no candles. I didn't do none of that. I just sat down with my intentions and wrote it out because I was tired. Because I said at that point, I was in this relationship that I knew was over.
Mm-hmm.
You know how a relationship is over way before it's over?
Mm-hmm.
That was it. And I was like, because he was like, I want to marry you. Like, no.
Not time
That's
me
not,
down.
that's not going to happen because you were an idiot. So I knew that was over. I knew it, but I was like, you know what? Okay, and then I said, all right. And then I sat down. I was like, God, I was like, I know this one is over and this ain't the one. I said, but I know you got one out there for me. I said, and I'm interested in men, everybody else, whatever you want, but I want a man, and I want a man and I want a real man, And
you
so,
a man that's born a man. I get you.
And I don't want him. So, and I was like, this is what I want. So when I wrote that thing, I was like, all right. And I just let it go. And I hadn't seen it. And all of a sudden I'm decluttering. I looked up, I'm like, oh my God. I read it. I'm like, this is amazing, And people said, well, how did you do it? I'm like, I just sat down and I said, God, you told me, because I always knew that I was going to be married again. Like and they have studies that say that people that were married young, they're going to marry again.
Wow.
Because they're used to being married. Like
okay.
I've been married almost all of my adult life.
Okay.
Outside of the 7-8 years or whatever between.
Right.
So it's like, okay, so it's what you're used to. And I was like, oh, okay. Right. But I did say that though, because I said, I'm young. I don't want to be alone till I die. I ain't trying to do that. But the other thing was too, I want to say, out loud is I was not going to settle. Was not.
And that's a beautiful thing. Because
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people are afraid of being lonely and they settle and then they're miserable.
Yes. We know a lot of people like that. It's like, no, you just went and grabbed that man and you knew, no. And
then you want to change him just because you got him. And then the thing is, no, you knew what you was getting before you went in there. But now you think, now I want to change him because this is what I wanted. You knew that he was not what you wanted from the beginning, but you don't go in a relationship with the idea he's like, and I'm going to change him. No, darling.
Yeah. It's so many women out there. They want to build a man.
No, I don't want to build a man. I want a man that's already there. So the thing
and that was what I said.
You got to figure out, the thing is, once you really start loving you, and I give you advice what my daughter said, Mom, you love hard. You love real hard. You love me and my brother and anybody you love hard.
Mm-hmm.
So I need you to love yourself just like you love me and my brother. That was her transition. That's what she said to me. And I was like, oh, girl, wow. What?
That's awesome. That is so awesome. That would have had me balling though. I would have been balling.
Girl, I bawled afterwards because I didn't understand, exactly, because it was when I found the video my daughter had created. Oh. And she told me why I was the best mom. Oh. And she was, so in a way, like I said, I believe my daughter knew she was passing because on her computer, that's what it said. Why I was the best mom. I said, she really believed I was a good mom. Like, is she crazy? Do you know? Because in my eyes, I didn't give her all the things I felt. And then I had to realize she didn't need the material. My daughter was 5'2". My daughter was 200 pounds. And I told my daughter, you don't let nobody define you. You define yourself. Don't let somebody, like she had end-stage renal failure. Yeah. And I said, you don't let, just because they say you have this, doesn't mean that that's your definition of what it need to be. You define how you want to be seen. You want this, you get this. You don't let anybody stop you. Now the teacher's like, oh, well, she's sick, and she's like, do y'all know who my mama is? She like, do you know who my mama is? And they were like, what do you mean? You can't stop. She was like, no, I cannot. My mom is working on a PhD. My mom worked 2 jobs. My mom is, she was explaining, like, my mom's come through some serious obstacles. What I look like, stop it. And I never thought about it. It was like, I just do because I do. You know what I mean? I want my children to have the best. It wasn't, for me to this is what you do.
Girl, no. You and I are sisters, the same. Right. Everybody said that's why I worked them 2, 3, 4 jobs. I mean, because I don't like to, I ain't asking nobody for nothing.
Bingo, that one.
I've always been, and I'm gonna take care of, and I like nice things, and I like my children to have nice things, and so I'm like, if that's what I got to do in order to get it, I said, because my daddy told me one time, he said, I needed to borrow some money because my property tax was due, and I didn't know that it wasn't in the mortgage. So anyway, so I didn't, and I think me and my ex had just split, and I called my dad and I was like, can I borrow some money? And he said, no. He said, I'm not going to let you borrow it. He said, I'm going to give it to you. He said, nice. Because you're the only one of my children that don't never ask me for nothing. And that's just me. Like, I'm not doing it. If I can figure out a way, I'm going to figure out a way.
Bingo.
And the way that I figured out at that time was working like a freaking mule, But and I did like you. I apologized to my kids even for that, because I said I apologize, and then because a lot of it to me also was, if I went to work, I didn't have to deal with those issues. So some of it was, let me just take, because I'll just get off this job and go home, make sure the kids are good, they got food and everything, their homework's done and all that stuff, and they ready, then took a bath or whatever, and then I can go to work, and I'll go back to work, and then I'll stay there, deal with their problems, and then I'll have to deal with mine. Don't you think a lot of people do that?
Yes, a lot of people do, and I'm guilty as one. I used to work or deal with others' problems and leave mine behind because I didn't want to unpack my load. Or when I thought I could, I thought I had a person that I could let down, I was told that I was complaining. And it was like, oh, well, don't express yourself. That's what I thought. And I learned. Oh,
yeah, that's what that was taught to you.
Right. So I was like, oh, so don't tell you. You're supposed to be my good sister, but you telling me not to tell you. Okay. Only thing you want to hear is everything is happy-gory and hunky-dory. So you don't want to hear anything bad. That's what she said. I don't want to hear anything bad. So I don't want to hear any bad news. And I was like, okay. So that she don't realize that changed the dynamic of a relationship, because I didn't know how to, you asked me how I'm feeling, and I don't know how to lie. Like, oh, I'm feeling good. No, I'm not. So the thing is, I can't talk to you.
Especially not to somebody you would call a friend.
No, I didn't call her just a friend. I called her my sister. There's a difference.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Especially, because to me, you need somebody that you can decompress with, because sometimes, especially in this, I'm going to talk about the toxic positivity. Mm-hmm. In this toxic positivity world, where everybody wants to know that everybody is wonderful and magnificent and, stupendous and all these things, and, but people going through. And to me, that's why so many people are fucking killing themselves. Because you got people that'll say stuff like this, they'll say something, and how you can tell when people are really ready to commit suicide.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, they're not going to talk about that. But what they're going to do, they're going to start giving away their shit. They're going to start not caring about things. Sometimes some of them even go through where they don't care about their
appearance.
Right.
Hygiene, whole 9 yards. Yep.
Yes, all that. And you start watching that and you put it together, and then you see. And then when they do it, you already knew, because you saw it coming. And it's just like that. And it's like, come on now. Everything. I told somebody, I said, everything ain't hunky-dory all the time.
Thank you.
What do they call it? Roses and tulips or whatever. I'm like, no, sometimes you have bad days.
Hello.
Sometimes the world is shitty.
Yep. Right. And then you pick, but the thing is, then when you're able to express it, you're able to pick it up. But then I said, you know what? Not everybody can hold your load because you've hauled so many people's load that you've gotten used to it. So when you are expressing your feelings, your emotions, it is heavier because you're so used to dealing with the world. That's what I had to come to learn. Okay, now that you know this, what are you going to do about it? How are you going to fix it? And then that's when my mind would shift. Okay, now we did this, let's fix it. And I come up with a plan. And then that point of, but I never really got to grieve.
Yes.
You understand? So there's a difference. You never fixed that emotion. You just went into fix it mode.
Yes.
And that's a lot of us empaths, intuitives, and mothers and nurturers. And also from children that come and have narcissistic people in our life, in our environment, that are not supportive, that are not helpful, that are abusive. When you have that kind of environment, it makes that person grow up and do other things, that they got to take on the world and be the world's savior. And guess what? That's not your job. I'm here to tell you, don't do it to yourself. It's not your job to save everybody.
That's what I was going to say. Some people believe that, that if you are a healer or you're an empath or you do Reiki or whatever the fuck it is you do, any kind of energy, shaman, whatever, that you also have Captain Save-A-Ho cape with you.
Don't save all hoes. They need to have hoes out there. Hoes have a position too.
I was gonna say they're gonna start striking in a minute. Can't save all the hoes.
No, I get you. So I get it.
It's almost like there are people that work in fast food. Now, could I do it? Hell no. But there are people that do that, and some people even like it, and stuff like that, and there are people that, do all kinds of jobs like plumbing. No, fuck no. But somebody has to do it.
Right.
And, wonderful for them.
Right. So when is your next, because I was talking about your courses, when is your next course coming out? Because I know you usually courses and retreats, and I know that you were getting together. So I want to talk about our project because I got get for gab, I was told yesterday, and I need to stay on task. That was expressed to me.
But that's why you're doing it so well, because I said the same, and I've been doing better with that. But it's hard, especially when because I buzz in your energy. I buzz. Right. I'm buzzing right now.
Oh, okay.
I do. Even when I talk to you on the phone, I buzz.
Wow. Okay. So tell us about your course. What's going on with that?
So I have a standalone mini course. It's Awakening Your Intuition, I think is the name of it, but it's a standalone mini course. And what for me, I know that I don't like these courses that are 150 and 800 pages long. Mm-hmm. I don't like them. I'm not going to do them.
Okay.
And so I know that the people that follow me are like me.
Okay.
So when I created the course, to me, when I sat down and actually did it, because I went through it myself, I was like, wow, this is really good. But it's not super long, but it's power packed.
Right.
Even the PDFs and stuff that come with it, I was like, okay, this is what I got. So I have that. What I'm also creating now, what I've created is Remember Who the Fuck You Are, the Remembered. And it's a membership where people come together. We're going to work on our spiritual authority, midlife reinvention for women especially. We're going to come together and we're going to be badasses. And that is what I have right now.
I like that.
Yeah. And then so I'm going to be doing workshops, monthly workshops. And my goal is to do them around the new moon.
Okay.
So monthly workshops just to bring people together and, and they're free. Yeah.
That's good.
Yes.
So I like that. It's funny how we met. We met on MeWe.
Right.
MeWe Fair. And interesting. I was like, okay, because at the time I didn't know there were people of color in Portland or Washington.
Oh, yeah.
Not trying to be funny because it was raining, it's cold. And I know a lot of us that is when it's raining, it's cold. I know me. I want a sun somewhere, and I want it to be
Girl, let me tell you. Can you see the sun on my video? I am sitting by the window. It is sunny today. 45 degrees and sunny. It's a beautiful day.
Right.
And no rain.
Right. There you go. So when I was there, it was rainy and I was miserable and it was cold and raining. Yeah. And then when I got on a plane, it was sunny. The girl said, I told you. I was like, no, that was spirit saying, look, this ain't where you.
This ain't for you. I don't think I could do this.
So I got it. You know what I mean? I got it. But then again, I also wanted to go to the island we were talking about. I did not want to be on the mainland. And I realized that being cut off during the winter and they have the boat stop running, would I be able to do that, even though if it's hot in my house? So that's another thing to, look at. So
like it really is, because, we know people that are, living out of the country and all this stuff. And one thing I thought about was, I said, they have to make sure, because a lot of things over there are not like here, and they got those countries that they don't even have internet. You have to go to a cafe and internet and stuff like that. And I'm like, yeah, I would not like that. So, people have to really do their research, and see if it's something that they can deal with, because, some people can, some people can't.
Right. Oh, I got you. Girl, got you. Yeah. So I was like, all right, this has been good. So do me a favor. Type up your website in a private chat. I'm going to put it in here again so everybody can see. Because, we done went over time, girl, big time.
I didn't know how long we was going to go. I said, okay.
Well, I was like, I'm trying to just do an hour. And
I was going to say, I thought you was trying to do like Nikki Love. Nikki be on here hours.
I had my sister on here yesterday. An hour after the time, I was like, oh, wow, I can't believe we're on. And we was trying to get off, and then something else came on, and I was like, oh, man. So we eventually got off. It was funny. Like, eventually we got offline.
I know. I interviewed her, too, and her interview was over an hour as well. It might have been almost 2.
Right.
But I was like, oh, my God. I said, and I'm actually usually pretty good with landing the plane. I do, because I'll say that. I'll say, well, and when I say, well, it's time to land this plane. It's time to go. Right. It's time to start landing. But a lot of times, you just, especially when the conversation is good.
Yes.
The energy is good.
Because that's kind of rare. So my thing is, what would your last thought for the night you want to give to the people tonight?
I want the people to know that that God is in them, and that they don't have to get their information from the outside, that they can be their own guru.
I love that.
And that all they have to do is just remember who they are.
Makes sense. So party people, let's see. I'm trying to remember how to do all these things.
Shit. So I get it. It's another fair.
It's like
the fire horse. I don't know.
I'm going to take us out of here, guys. It's been real. I had a great time. I want to thank Tammi for coming and being my guest. So what I'm going to put up, this thing is, what is it? Like and subscribe. What else?
And share.
If you have any questions, put it at the bottom of the screen.
Yes.
And the other one is like and subscribe.
Yes.
That's all you got to do.
Just be kind, y'all. You remember how they used to say, be kind, rewind?
Hello.
Be kind, like it.
There you go. So I want to say thank you for everybody. I am out of here. And as we go out, I'll put this on for you. And here we go. Where's she going?
Thank you for having me.
We're so grateful. Thank you, love. Where is? You want to do this? So, I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes.
I don't think can they hear me on here?
I can hear you.
No, them, because we're in the backstage.
Oh.
Then you see, we're not there anymore.
Oh, wait. It's still going up the numbers.
It is.
Mm-hmm.
Oh shoot. I apologize, y'all. I thought I was off.
No.